Okay, we're a go.
Awesome. All right, good evening, everyone. This is a meeting of the Village of Sherwood Hills Plan Commission. Tonight is Tuesday, January 13th. It is 7:02 p.m. Chrissy, can you do the roll call?
Yes. John Imes,
Present.
Mark Letter,
Here,
Jim Etmansick. I don't see him yet.
No.
Craig Weinhold,
Here.
uh, Kara Coburn Ferris.
Here, and I'm renaming my iPad.
Oh, I gotcha.
Thanks.
And we do know that Shabnam will be absent. She is excused.
And I think Tessa is as well, given her decision to leave Plan Commission. But
Correct.
all right. And then item 3, just want to confirm that we're in compliance with the open meeting law. Meeting's been properly noticed.
Yes, the meeting was properly posted.
Item 4, approval of the minutes from December 9th, 2025. Those were in the packet. Hopefully you had a chance to review those. And if so, I'd ask for a motion for acceptance.
I've got a change.
Yeah, go ahead, Craig.
Under the number 7, under fence code,
Mm-hmm.
there's a comment that says the Plan Commission supports changing the fence height from 5 foot to 6 foot. We took no votes on that. I think there was some people supported that, but I don't think we have established that the Plan Commission supports the change. Or if there was a vote, I must have.
Yeah, Craig, I
Noted off.
don't recall that as well. I think it's just saying discussion included and then changing the fence height from 5 to 6. I think we did talk about that.
We talked about it, but we never
Right.
actually went around and said, hey, do we agree? I personally disagree. Just like it was mentioned
Oh, I
during the
see.
call, some people wanted to go to 7 feet,
Yeah.
so I don't think we're unanimous in this. And
I'm looking at Kara on this. Mark, go ahead.
yeah, let me just make the motion
Yeah.
and then we can have the discussion and resume Craig's concern.
Thank you, Mark.
Let me make the motion just to approve the minutes of the meeting of December 9th, 2025.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Kara. I appreciate that. Craig, back to you.
okay, well, I think I said I don't think that line is accurate. I think we could say some of the Plan Commission supports changing the fence height 5 to 6 foot.
Mark?
That's my recollection as well, is that it was a informal kind of consensus sort of thing, but not official action by the committee. So I would agree with an amendment that would say that some members of the Plan Commission support changing the fence height from 5 to 6 feet.
Okay.
Okay, I have it noted.
All right. Kara, does that work for you? Your second?
Yep.
Okay. Ready to vote then? All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. That motion passes. All right. Item 5, public comments. This is an opportunity for community members to speak to the committee. No discussion or action may take place at this time, and speakers may be limited to 3 minutes. Do we need public comment this evening? Kurt, I see your hand up. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Several things for you tonight. First, 2 frustrations. I noticed again that this meeting was not placed on the village calendar on the website as of, I think it was Saturday when I looked, and I didn't find out until 5 o'clock today that the meeting was actually taking place. I guess that the village website is not one of the official places it needs to be posted, but at least for me, it's the place, it's my go-to place to see what meetings are going on. So Chrissy and Brian, if you have a chance to try to get all these meetings posted on the website, it would help some of us. Secondly, you need to say something, Chrissy. I see your hand.
Yeah, I did check into this. I got a text before the meeting and I can confirm that that was posted on the website on Friday, probably around 3:30. I sent the Zoom invite out around 3:20 and then I proceeded to go to the website. So it was posted on the calendar as well as the Plan Commission page on
Okay.
Friday around 3:30.
I appreciate your follow-up on that so promptly. I just texted John about it an hour ago. So, another frustration for me, you'll see in one of your documents, it says submitted by Kurt Hansen. I want to be clear that I withdrew that. Brian was kind enough to remind me that if I submit ordinance changes, I become financially liable for them. And it could have been up to 13 hours of professional time. I think I estimated $500 an hour, so it could cost me more than $5,000 to submit any ordinance revisions or changes to you. And it's a bit of a catch-22 that one of the revisions I submitted was to get rid of that fee and go to an application fee, which is what the state recommends. But I'm obviously not going to spend $5,000 or more trying to fix some of our ordinances. Of the one that's included in your packet, don't consider it submitted by me, although it was written by me, and I'm glad you're taking it up. That has to do with the voting in front of the ZBA. The current ZBA requirements, as I read it, is that they have to have 4 votes to approve something, and therefore the quorum is 4. If you have fewer than 4 people there, you obviously can't get 4 votes. As that document shows, the state recommends that you go to majority for these for things like the ZBA. But I want to be clear: the state does not require it, but they recommend it. Again, when we went before the ZBA and there were only 4 members there, when you're required to have 4 votes, that required us to have unanimity, which is a very high bar to meet. And I think it's much more realistic for you to have an ordinance that says the quorum of the ZBA is X, which would probably be 4 people, and then say you have to have a majority of the votes. So I think that someone edited that. I don't know if that was Brian or John, because I notified them I had to withdraw this. So I think what you have in your packet is probably what you want to talk about. So I thank you for taking that up and considering it. And thank you for your attention.
Appreciate that, Kurt. Other public comments this evening? Mary, I see your hand up.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, John. I'm Mary Wyman, 1223 Dartmouth Road. And I'm simply here to join with Kurt in urging this group to seriously discuss a change in how the voting happens for the Zoning Board of Appeals, making it a clear quorum and then a majority of the quorum. I know past discussions in this group have, a number of you have noted how complicated the zoning code can be and how things can be interpreted. And I feel like a change like this would actually be a really nice move in the direction of greater simplicity, making it easier for the zoning board in terms of getting clear quorum and making decisions. And also, I think it's really important, it wouldn't give one person really veto power, because I think that's a big deal. I think a lot of decisions that come before the Zoning Board of Appeals, big ticket items like the Sweetbriar houses, but also smaller issues that neighbors are wanting to have reviewed. There's a fair bit of interpretation, opinion that the members need to go through. So it's not necessarily cut and dry decisions. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Mary. Appreciate that. Other additional public comment this evening? Brian.
Hi, my name is Brian Reber, and I wanted to speak on the ZBA quorum and voting rules. Although I'm a little confused now if this is being taken up as a submission from Kurt or if it's being taken up by the Plan Commission. So if I could have some clarity on, the mechanism with which this is being discussed, that would be helpful. Because the question I want to ask is, what problem is this proposal actually trying to solve? I had believed it was being proposed by Mr. Hansen, who currently has 2 active appeals before the ZBA. If this is being taken up by the Plan Commission separately from Mr. Hansen's desire to change the rules of the ZBA while he has 2 active appeals, I'd like to know that. Because I have to say, changing the vote threshold for an appellant while they have active appeals sure seems like trying to lower the bar to his own success. I don't know if that is Mr. Hansen's intention, but very coincidental timing here. I would say that if the problem is that 4 members actually means unanimity, there is a real fix, and that's governance by filling the vacancies, not by rewriting the rules along the way. Last fall, 3 ZBA appointments were made because there are 3 empty seats. The ZBA has 2 members out of the board of 5. And the reason we can even get to 4 is because of the 2 alternates. So if there's an issue with unanimity, it's because those 3 seats were not filled. And John, I know you made those appointments. I know the board chose to slow the process down, but fast forward a few months and there's issues before the ZBA, and now we don't have enough people, and it must be unanimous. Well, this looks like a situation that could have been avoided by actually going ahead with those appointments. That sequence, slowed appointments plus a lowering of the vote threshold, if you choose to go that way, appears to me to be less about approving function and more about making it easier to overturn zoning administrator decisions. So again, I don't want to assign intent, but if there is a policy decision about the way the ZBA can overturn zoning administrator decisions, like fair enough, have that be part of a comprehensive code update and not a targeted rewrite, once again, in the process of a current issue at play. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. We'll be speaking more to this issue as part of item 7 on the agenda. All right, any other public comment here this evening? Not seeing additional members of the public wishing to speak. All right, let's move forward then to item 6, discussion UW Wimmer concept plans. I see we've got, we had Aaron Williams. Is Aaron still with us? I see Scott Utter. I see Scott Kammer. I see Matt. I see Mark Wells from UW Hospital.
John, while we're waiting for Aaron to jump back on, maybe we could just go around and introduce the team.
Yeah, let's do that.
To start with.
So yeah, Scott, why don't you start?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. I am Scott Utter. I am the Director of Campus Planning and Landscape Architecture at UW-Madison. Happy to be here tonight. And Matt Efflin, maybe I'll hand it over to you and you can introduce yourself and the rest of the team.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Matt Efflin. I'm the project manager for UW-Madison and the Facilities Planning and Management Department. And then I'll hand it off to Mark to introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. Mark Wells. I'm the facilities director for the School of Medicine and Public Health. Happy to be here.
And then Scott.
Hi, everybody. I'm Scott Kammer. I'm from Potter Lawson Architects, project manager for the design team for the Wimmer cyclotron project.
So while we're waiting for Aaron, Scott, would one of you like to tee this up, or should Matt tee it up? How'd you like to handle?
Sure, Scott. I think you're going to probably run the show for the most part, right, Scott? So I'll hand it over to you.
Okay. Can I just ask a quick question?
You bet, Kara.
I don't want to interrupt once this gets rolling, but I'm trying to understand why this is before us and sort of what is within the Planning Commission's purview here, or kind of what I should be paying attention to in this presentation, kind of what we're doing. And I am very interested, so I'm excited to hear what you all have to say. But yeah.
So yeah.
So that's kind of a question. That's absolutely a question for John.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Not all of you.
Okay.
Okay.
The quick answer, Kara, is the village has jurisdiction over lands that include UW Hospital. So when any zoning revisions, architecturally related issues come up, they also, among different bodies, I also serve on the Joint Campus Area committee. It
Yep.
certainly goes in front of that committee. It goes in front of the design. There's a design group that's also involved. It's also part of the city of Madison. But because of the jurisdictional issues and zoning issues, and I see Aaron is about ready to join us again. We just have, historically, we have done this when these types of projects arose, and this is another example of that.
So we share the jurisdiction with City of Madison and the UW.
Yeah, so
That's-
this project's kind of interesting because it is
Thank you.
literally right down the middle of the line.
Right.
So the eastern half of this portion of the Wimmer complex that's being constructed here is within the city of Madison, and the western half is in the village of Shorewood Hills. So, Aaron, we went through some introductions.
Excellent. You can
I
hear
don't
me?
know if and I was about to kick it over to Scott Kamer to take it over, but I don't know if you had any other introduction to provide to this before we turned it over to Scott.
No, I don't think so. Other than this, the first step we got approved by the city of Madison last night with the accepting of the master plan amendment. So we're sort of running this project part and parcel with both city approvals and village. So just as an FYI, I don't know if that was mentioned, but otherwise, no. I think the next step was to have Potter Lawson run through the slides here and give an overview of the project.
Okay, and then Aaron, why don't you introduce yourself real quick for the plan commission?
Great idea, President. Thank you. Yeah, Aaron Williams, senior campus planner, UW-Madison. I work for facilities planning management, so on the staff side of the house.
Thanks for that. And then we'll move over to Scott Kamer then.
All right. Thank you all. Would you like me to present, or did you have the presentation? I can certainly do that if that makes sense.
Who are you asking, Scott? Are you asking me or?
I just wasn't sure if the plan commission presents, or if I should share my screen.
If you could
Scott,
share
why
your.
don't you go ahead and share on this? Yeah.
Okay. I can do that.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, you bet. All right, here it comes. And no, I just have to share. Can you all, let's see, can you all see that?
Not yet.
Yeah, it looks like it's loading. Here we
There you
go.
go.
Okay, great. Thanks for your patience there. Wasn't quite sure in some of the meetings I watched there, the Plan Commission was sharing, but it's no problem at all. This project is located at the Wisconsin Institute of Medical Research at Wimmer Complex, 111 Highland Avenue in Madison, of course. The goals for the project are basically to house a cyclotron machine as an addition to this project. The facility will include a basement level, which is where the cyclotron will reside, and there'll be a first and second level above that with laboratory space, office space, and mechanical systems as well. The vision for the project is to provide Wimmer with a state-of-the-art cyclotron machine, and that will address the growing demand for cyclotron-produced radionuclides. It will almost quadruple the existing production that they have right now. And this will also support the UW Medicine and UW Health in treating Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, cancer, chronic pain, and more ailments. The increase in the isotope availability will be for researchers nationwide as well as UW-Madison. So that just kind of gives you an overall project vision for this project. You'll see up here the high-level project schedule. Substantial completion is right now in April of 2028, and the project will go out for bid in August of 2026, basically. that kind of gives an overall background for the project goals. As you can see here in the next slide, this red symbol here kind of gives you an idea of the campus and where that is. And if we zoom in a little bit closer, the surrounding context of the Wimmer complex at the north ring of the Highland Avenue, it was very important to the design. This aerial view does a good job of graphically explaining the Wimmer complex, with the Wimmer Tower 1 on the left and the Wimmer Tower 2 on the right. The existing east wedge is shown here right in the middle of the two towers. And the yellow area is the specific site at hand there. The next slide shows some existing imagery of that. The upper left here is specifically where this building or this addition will be built. And the image to the right of that is important for us as this design team, because this is the existing west wedge, the most recent addition here to the complex. And we are really keying in on the design of that facility as a continuation of that as we build this. And then you'll see some distant views from the soccer fields and whatnot as well. Part of this project is a sustainability initiative. We will be following UW-Madison sustainability guidelines, as well as the state of Wisconsin DFD guidelines as part of this project. What we're seeing here is an additional green roof. This will be on the top of the L2, we're calling it, level, or the third story. And it will be twofold. It will be for rainwater runoff. It will start to slow the runoff, but it'll also provide fresher air and a place for some of the inhabitants of the building to eat and take a break, basically. We've got some precedent images here that show planters with small trees and extensive greenery in that roof as well. This kind of gives you an idea what that could look like up there. In addition, the site plan here is showing vegetation, native plantings, and this will emulate what's also at the west wedge. So it'll be more of a continuation in that regard. The next slide here is a floor plan of the basement space where the cyclotron will be housed. It will have, the cyclotron is located in this area with a vault with 8-foot wide concrete walls around it. And it also will have some lab space to the right of that. In yellow, you'll see the egress path and the exit here as well. Here's a 3D view of the addition itself. And you'll see that the base, it has a base, middle, top with an extrusion here that emulates that west wedge as well. The cyclotron itself will be basically on the right side there with the stone. As you look at that, it'll be underneath that pop out. And so that we are trying to get as much daylight as possible with the punched windows to the left, so that those will be more clear stories. The basement level is halfway, about 7 feet into the ground from this view here. And then the two levels above that, L1 and L2 as we call them, those will be future build out for labs and offices. You can kind of see in this view to the right that existing west wedge as it'll kind of carry through there and continue a lot of that same design. Here's a view from up above. You can see the green roof there. There will be mechanical spaces in those louvers here. And again, it was the primary goal of the design team and the UW architect to make this look as if it was always part of this Wimmer complex. With similar forms, similar materials. As you know, there's probably a lot going on in the University Hospital complex, so I think to continue with some of that existing theme was one of our goals. This next slide here just kind of shows in detail some of the materials. The metal composite wall panels, this off-white color, matches some of the existing materials. The Casoda natural stone panels here is located on the base. It will have some aluminum architectural louvers here in the bump out or the pop out, and also some aluminum curtain wall system. And all of those materials are already on that west wedge as well. So the next slide, I'm going to hand it over to Aaron Williams to talk about the area allocation and the percentage of the coverage of the land.
Sure. Appreciate it, Scott. Thank you. Yeah, so the map that's showing up on the screen right now is the zoning map of the Village of Shorewood Hills. And you can see we're in the CF there on the far right, the community facility zoning district. And you can go to the next slide. And within that district, there's a maximum lot coverage that we are to remain under, and that number happens to be 50%. And this is working with both the village administrator and the Van de Waal as a consultant to understand sort of this percentage. You can see sort of maybe we should have started with this line, right? But there's the municipal line that sort of defines the two areas. And then you can see sort of the amount of building versus the amount of site that's being proposed with this project. So when we're looking at the zoning, the CF zoning, understanding this 50% max lot coverage and what that all includes, this came up initially with the D2 module that the hospital was constructing. And we ran some calculations, and it was determined by Van de Waal, I believe, and we were in agreement with them that the percentage of, I think, go to the next slide, the amount of square footage available. Yeah, so yeah, you can. So there was two graphics that were created initially. One was by the architect of the D2 module, and then the other one on the right was actually using GIS data. So this table is all it's doing is it's put a bunch of numbers on there, but what it's comparing is the maximum lot area coverage of the parcel within the Village of Shorewood Hills. And essentially what we're trying to get across is that we believe we're under that 50% maximum lot coverage with this addition project. But going forward, we're gonna run up against that. So we're gonna have to address that going forward, what to do with it. So I think for what the Plan Commission should be aware of, that for this meeting and sort of what we're talking about tonight, is that there is a maximum lot coverage. We're aware of it. We believe we're under it with this project addition. And I guess I'll leave it at that. But that's what these last three slides were essentially getting at. And to answer the question of that, I guess, building across municipal boundary lines, is that common? That's not common at all, but it's typically not common because each municipality sort of has their own rules and regulations. So it's not that it's impossible, but it's just fairly difficult for a typical developer to achieve. So that's why you don't see it. So in our case, Board of Regents land, our standards are, probably above and beyond what most municipalities would have. So we kind of hold ourselves to a higher level that way. And so that's why we feel this project, although we're keeping both the village and the city in close collaboration on this project, we feel we're sort of doing this the right way to get the approvals that are necessary. So that's all I wanted to say about these slides, but these definitely if you ask questions, we can come back to them. I think that's our entire presentation. Wanted to keep it quick, but allow you all to ask questions, and we can go back to anything else here too to sort of clarify and help you out.
All right, thanks, Aaron. Questions from Plan Commission members for Aaron, for Scott, for the other project team members?
Two Scotts, yeah, we got two Scotts tonight.
Yeah, Craig Weinhold, I see your hand up.
Yeah, so we reviewed the Wimmer proposal about a year and a half ago. You've got some more detail with the square footage and so forth, and I think that first meeting was just kind of more of a heads up. But have there been any substantial changes? The renderings seem pretty similar. You know, you're not increasing floor. I mean, it seems to be a pretty similar project to what we looked at a year and a half ago.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
yeah. I'll start from just a UW perspective, and I'll let Scott Kammerer speak about the architecture. But yeah, why the big delay from when you first saw this? The major reason was NIH funding. That's the huge component of this, specifically for the cyclotron. So as you can imagine, federal funding had some fits and starts. We now have got our head wrapped around that and have those dollars committed, or at least coming our way. So that's why the lag happened. But to your point, yeah, there was not a lot of change in the architecture, but I'll let Scott speak to that.
Yeah, and I also think that at one point this project was considered to be done in phases, and right now the phases have gone away. You may have seen some of these as like the master plan or the eventual 3-story plan, but right now that's the plan that we're moving forward with, is all 3 levels. So, and I think that'll be a good thing for the project. It'll look more complete, as you can see here, rather than doing 1 or 2 stories at a time. But yeah, essentially, basically the same design concept. We've worked with UW-Madison in the planning and in trying to get this to really kind of match the rest of the complex.
Mark. got a
Yeah,
question.
my question, I guess, is to Brian Mooney here, which is kind of, where is this in the approval process? Have they mentioned, the UW staff mentioned the possibility that at least we're close to the max lot coverage. Has the village done its own calculations on that? Has any position been taken on that? And if that was the case, what would be the process of approving the square footage?
So to answer your question, the original review a year and a half ago or a year plus ago was conducted. It was given to Van de Waal, our village planner. Scott Harrington at that time was the one who did the review, worked with UW and confirming that the square footage did comply with the village ordinances. The question that I was going to ask, Craig Weinhold just asked, which was if there was any substantial changes to this that would require a secondary review by our village planner to ensure that it still complies with the square footage figures that were previously reviewed. If there's not, then the steps from here, we would have to publish this. I believe this is a conditional use permit application for the project. So it would be coming back in February following commission review this evening for a formal application of the CUP and approvals, which would then be sent to the village board for final approval.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks for that, Brian. Other questions, comments, thoughts? So this will be teed up for the February meeting. Craig, you still have your hand up.
Yeah, well, just
Yep.
looking, I mean, it was mentioned about the 50% number. You know, we have height limitations. You know, we exclude the hospital in our zoning code. Cyclotron, I assume this is part of the hospital, but we have other buildings there like Weissman, which is maybe not part of the hospital. And I think this is a future thing for Shorewood, is to look at that CF zoning and make sure it's not an inhibitor to some of the growth that's happening here. So just a side comment.
Craig, I noted that the other CF part of the village is Black Hawk Country Club. So does that mean the green roof is going to have some putting holes, putting? I'll retract that.
Well, yeah,
suggestion.
access to the green roof is, you know, maybe something to talk about. You know, if
There's a lot of doctors out there, John. Don't say that too loud.
That's right. Good
Or
point,
we'll definitely
Scott.
have some putting greens up there.
That's
Oh,
right.
it looks like more like a driving range.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, thank you all for the excellent presentation. Craig, you're right. This was teed up over a year ago, and I know we've talked about this in Joint Campus quite a bit as well. So glad that you were here tonight. Look forward to seeing you again in February and doing what we can to move it forward.
Sounds great. We'll work with Brian, village administrator, on the CU application. So appreciate it.
That'd be great. Great to see you
Thank
all.
you.
See you again
Everybody.
soon.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
All right, let's move on. Item 7, discussion zoning board of appeals quorum and voting rules. We've had some public comment on that this evening. I noticed Mary added a chat comment during the presentation we had. She missed the public comment period. Brian, did you want to tee this up further in terms of where this is coming from? And
Yeah, I mean, I think Kurt Hansen did a pretty solid job introducing a little bit of background. It was brought to my attention by Kurt a few weeks ago. I subsequently reached out and consulted with our village planner, village attorney, to see if they could provide some assistance in the review or give me an estimate for what their assistance might be. I communicated that information back to Kurt. Kurt subsequently, as he announced earlier this evening, made the decision not to pursue. And Craig decided to bring this to me to see if it would be something that the Plan Commission might have an interest in at least discussing tonight. And then if there's support for this, it's a matter of whether we want to bring this to the village board for some further discussion and consideration. So I at this point, aside from what's in the packet, I mean, this is kind of more of a Craig, Kurt kind of lead the discussion from here. But that's the background for the moment.
appreciate that, Brian. Did you, Craig, can you speak to this further?
Yeah, well, I think this comes from the summer ZBA where we had a difficult time achieving quorum, just in terms of membership availability, people's travels and so forth, having to tap both the first and second alternates, and that for an all volunteer village, that's a little bit it was I guess a challenge. Obviously, when things come up for appeal, there's often a clock ticking. If 90 days go by, I think the state mandates that things get approved, if there's been no other action. In the board packet, or in the Plan Commission packet on page 21, I did a kind of a summary of what other villages in Dane County do in terms of state law says there's 5 people on a ZBA, a zoning board of appeal. And the state law says that, the state standard basically says that you only need to have 3 members present for quorum, and you only need to have 2 members voting, in favor of something. And so I kind of break down what communities follow the state law, which ones have their own rules, and which ones are a little bit outliers. And I thought it would be a good point to discuss. 4 votes is tough if we have a hard time getting 4 people to show up. And Kurt's original idea was to say, well, let's just allow 3 votes, which would be a majority. Doesn't matter if there's 4 or 5 members present, or even if there's 3 members present. If you can get 3 votes, that's definitely a majority, and that perhaps would carry the decision. And that's the way it is in Mazomanie, Dane, Rockdale, Cottage Grove, Waunakee, and so forth. But there's also a lot of communities that require 4. They explicitly say 4 members, and Shorewood Hills is one of those.
Brian, I saw you had Cross Plains had 4 members. Brian.
Right. And I believe the state rules, as Craig was alluding to at one point, I don't know the year, but the state did change that requirement from the 4 votes, and some municipalities opted to either keep it the same. Some voted to lower the threshold, like Craig has mentioned. So I don't know specifically if a discussion was ever held by the village in the past to review that, and if they decided to keep it the same, or if they just opted not to have a conversation and nothing changed. So I don't have that background to provide this evening, but it is an option that's available.
Yeah, and Mark Letter, I don't think this has ever come up at the board level or at the plan commission level that I can recall.
Well, you have a much longer history than I do on the
Yeah.
plan commission.
Yeah,
It's certainly not come up in my short tenure.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
I defer to you on that point.
yeah. I don't ever remember us dealing with that over the years. Craig, other things you wanted to speak to on this?
No, I just, what Brian just said, I think is probably the truth of the matter. So many of our ordinances were taken directly from state law, word for word, and I think a lot of communities did. And so a lot of them, back when it said 4 members, they copied that. And a number of villages didn't copy anything. They just inherited state law. So they take whatever state law does. Only a few, like Mazomania, and Mazomania seems to be kind of the smart one. They actually have tackled this. They had to figure this out, and they came up with their own language. And to me, it makes pretty good sense. So I kind of like the Mazomania approach. But
Okay, and then the one thing I was going to add was Brian mentioned we reached out to the village attorney, and Bill Cole got back to us, and he said that any change would require action of the village board. The plan commission's not in a position to be involved so that, I mean, if obviously we're going to share this information with the board moving forward, and then the board will discuss any potential amendments to 62.235 statutes. But that's really it's really good. It's really under the board's purview.
well,
So-
if I could
Go ahead,
say,
Craig.
so this is the zoning code. So this is no different than the 25-foot setback. We could take action, and then there's a public hearing. And then if it goes further from that, then it gets forwarded to the board, and then there's 3 readings at the board. This whole process to change this would be a minimum of 5 months, just like any zoning change. So I think one of the public comments was about, is this about a specific ZBA? No, this is not. This is about, setting things to make sure we can handle future ZBAs. But it is a chapter 10. So anything in chapter 10, we have initial say over. The board has final say, but we have the initial say on. So
I don't think we really have initial say. I think we can just choose to weigh in and, provide a recommendation to the board. I don't think that the board is precluded from taking things up.
I'm not sure if the board can make changes to chapter 10 on their own. I think they would refer to plan commission for our input, and then it would go back to the board. But you're right, they could bring it up and then refer it to us, and then we could, I guess.
Our decision is not binding on the board.
No, of course not. They can vote
Right.
however.
Right. So
But Kara, I think what I'm hearing from you is, and my understanding is the board can take this up.
yeah, and I mean, I think we can weigh in, certainly, if we choose to as a body. And I would agree with this change. I think it's a bit fluky to require unanimity when only 4 members can be present, and it just seems a little bit more consistent with the law, and I think how these boards are designed to function. I think we have a separate concern maybe with sort of appointments to the board and who applies, who gets appointed. And I was looking into this a little bit because I'm not familiar with the most recent history of I think there were some nominees that weren't confirmed. I'm not sure what happened with that. But it seems odd that we can't get a few more people to do this. I mean, it's somewhat of a light lift in terms of involvement. It's usually pretty defined questions, and it's kind of fun, actually. But I guess I did notice that I thought there was a fillable form online for people to express their interest in committees. And I see that there is a PDF form. It's named a fillable form, but it's not a fillable form because I think you have to print it off and then either hand it in by to a person or email a person. And generally a fillable form is, kind of a like a survey or something that you can just submit electronically, and then it automatically goes into a database that records, when that submission occurred. And so at this point, I don't know if we really have like a consistent list of who's interested, what their qualifications are, and when they express their interest. But I could be wrong about that. Maybe those records are being kept in some other form. I also think I remember that at one point after the reforms where we got rid of the caucus and such, after we worked with that consultant, I thought that we did have an online fillable form available where you could just automatically apply, and then it was stored in some database. But I wondered if maybe in the website update that was changed, but maybe I'm imagining that there was a fillable form. So.
No, I appreciate that, Kara. Mark.
Yeah, I kind of want to get back, because the issue of populating the committee is a board issue. It's not a plan commission issue. So I kind of want to get back to what we need to focus on. So this particular topic was not noticed for possible action.
Correct.
So I'm assuming that we will not take formal action tonight because it doesn't appear to have been noticed for that. And so given that's the case, we have some time, it seems to me, and I'm a little confused, I have to say at this point, as to how this process rolls out from here, because Craig just suggested that this follows the same form as the setback change that we made, which requires public hearing and that whole process. And yet I'm hearing that maybe that's also not the case, that there can be more expedited approval of this. In any case, it does matter because if the issue rests solely with the board and doesn't require us to initiate action, that's one thing. If the way this particular ordinance, because of its location in the zoning code, if it requires us to take the first step, then we need to know that and be prepared, I suppose, at a future meeting to take action. So I guess I'm just asking Brian to kind of, if you can clarify that now, that would be great. If not, hopefully at the next meeting of the Plan Commission.
Yeah, I mean, we reached out to Bill Cole to just confer with him on that one, and John stated what his guidance was on that. So it was noted tonight just for discussion because of the fact that it didn't require the Plan Commission to have a unanimous vote of support to have it go to the board for additional discussion. The board could still act independently if they so chose on this. So tonight was just more or less to just get the conversation started, hear what the commission members felt, and see if this was something that they felt overall was something that would benefit the village to pursue.
Okay, thank you. That helps. I mean, my inclination, I think like Kara's, is to go to a 3-person majority on simple majority vote rather than a super majority vote. As I say, I've been on the board for some time. I don't know about the Plan Commission, but I don't think it ever came up to the board when the law changed and allowed municipalities to have this flexibility to move to a simple majority process. So I would, based on what I know now, I would be supportive of that. But yeah.
Yeah, and just to, just to clarify my position, I don't think it's irrelevant, how we appoint people to this body. And, so I do want my comments to be noted.
Thanks for that, Kara. Craig?
Could I share the ordinance, 10-1-125? I think I have share permissions. So this is from our, so chapter 10, which is the Shorewood zoning code. This is the relevant part about changes. And it said changes, such changes, they need to either be submitted here or come through here for action and recommendation. So the fact that we can't have action tonight means that it could go to the board, but they're just going to simply refer it to us next month, or we can bring it up next month for action on our own and then send it to the board to consider. But everything in chapter 10, any change, I'm pretty sure, I mean, this is pretty clear that the board can't do it without involving us. And this chapter is the one that defines, I think, the zoning board of appeal. I'm going to go up to the top again. I think zoning board of appeal is just another section here. Yeah, the zoning board of appeals is 10-1-124, which you can read. I'll stop sharing.
So maybe we could bug Bill again and just kind of confirm that. I mean, my sense was, the plan commission can advise, but we don't need to go through a full, public hearing, long process, before it got to the board. He cited 62.235. I think you were at 62.237. I don't know if there was a difference there, Craig. I didn't look for that nuance.
There could be changes. The state has changed their rules little bits, and if they're inconsistent with ours, they might take precedence.
Yeah. So I mean, I usually defer. I mean, I think the work that you do is incredibly positive and productive, and adds a lot of value for me as a commission member. So I appreciate the amount of detail and effort that you're putting in. I mean, we also sometimes have to rely on, 35-year professionals that have lived it and breathed it and dreamed it. So, but I mean, Brian, you talk to Bill all the time. You could raise this as just an additional clarification. But my sense is that, the board, this is an important enough of an issue for the board to handle, and to handle sooner. And then we can plan for that accordingly.
Yeah, and just my understanding of 62.23 sub 5 is that the board, the commission is there to provide information to the board based on what the board what the board is interested in taking up. And so they ask the commission for a report. We have 30 days. And if we don't provide it, then the council can take final action without it. And the report is just informational and advisory. Our, position, or our majority position, is not just positive. Right. Obviously, the board can make the decisions that the board wants to make.
So from a plan commission standpoint, we're obviously not taking action. The board will be provided with Craig's table and the additional copy that was provided to the commission members tonight. Obviously, the board will get the minutes or get a report from Mark and I on our discussion of this topic. Anything else? I don't like to ask open-ended questions, but anything else you think are a must-have for the board to explore this further? Craig?
Yeah, you know, it would be nice. It sounds like in general, we're supportive of changing this. Are people supportive of kind of the Mazamania approach, which would require 3 votes, or the state approach, which would allow 2 of 3 to be a vote? Because that's a pretty significant difference. And if we're passing this to the board, we might want to kind of have a general feel for that.
Reaction?
It seems like a very small number to take action.
I agree.
Right, that's it's the other thing I'm noticing, you know, there's 4 commission members here and 2 of them are board members. So you're reaching a big part of the board so far. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think we should stick with or go with the 3 of 5, the simple majority. I just think that makes the most sense.
Yeah, or 3 of 4, right?
3 of 4, as long as they have a quorum.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a historical bit. When I was reviewing these other villages, it sounds like some villages, the ZBA meets more regularly, and the people on the ZBA are also often involved in business that affects their own properties. You know, again, depends on the size of the village and so forth. And so some of these communities separated the idea of quorum from a voting majority. So quorum for the ZBA to meet could involve people that had to recuse themselves from individual votes. And so then you'd have these alternates that would step in. You know, we're not a large village, but we're certainly not the smallest in the county. But it was just kind of interesting to see how this idea of quorum and voting majorities and so forth are, you know, a little decoupled. I don't think we have that problem. Our ZBA meets infrequently and only on demand.
Yeah.
But and obviously getting people to show up, you know, there's usually one issue before the ZBA. There's usually not multiple ones. So.
No, Craig, that's very helpful. I really appreciate that analysis. So are we ready to move on then from this? Okay, let's move on to item 8, discussion future zoning code topics for review. Brian, did you want to speak to this? I know that we've been in touch with Sonia. Sonia's scheduled time with Brian Berquist, our village engineer. Do you just want to update the commission on this?
Yeah, so following the last plan commission meeting, I did provide a summary of what was discussed to both Sonia and Brian, our 2 consultants, and gave them a little bit of the guidance as far as some of the consensus agreement as far as the FAR calculation spreadsheet that Mr. Berquist operates and the garage credit, basement garage credit requests for edit, and then also provided them with a little bit of the background as far as some of the agreements that it sounded like the commission wanted to pursue as it pertained to existing envelope homes having the abilities to finish interior spaces and not be hindered by the floor area ratio calculation in doing so. So they understood that the kind of you know, this is sort of a hard one for them to fully understand. So that what they were hoping to have was just a little bit more as far as like some of the policy direction as far as what is the commission within this specifically hoping for them to focus on. Aside from that, just more examples of like how they can and where this might go, what complications we might be thinking of as far as you know, like the example was again with Brian Berquist, like if you're allowing them to finish the basement on an existing home, but then they have to put in like basement windows or something, does that constitute an addition? Does that constitute? I told them I'm pretty sure the commission felt that would not, but again, this is just more of a there's little pieces that I think they were hoping to have a little bit more specific guidance on before going in and looking at the code and trying to rewrite to meet everybody's needs. It's hard to narrow this down, and I know that I can't specifically cover every aspect, but just you know, some more considerations, thoughts from the commission members as to how I should advise them to deliver what we're looking to get them to get.
Thanks, Brian. Any reactions to that? Craig, you first, then Kara, or Kara? Is that
Kara
yeah.
first.
Kara, you go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I feel like they're asking for policy direction, and I don't think we're the body to provide that. And so I guess I'm kind of back to being concerned about this sort of bottom-up approach where we're patchworking together like the language of code when we don't even have board buy-in for what we're trying to accomplish. And we don't make the policy. Board does. We're not accountable to the voters. The board is.
Okay.
Thanks for that, Kara. Craig?
So one of the things we were talking about last month was about the mass of the building, or the volume of the building. If there was a way to accurately compute that. We know Brian Berquist does a very good job with floors calculations, using exterior walls. But with the heights and the different angles of roofs and the different materials involved, if we could get a sense of, if it's easy to come up with a sense of the mass of the building, I believe Mark was the one that was kind of talking about that would be the thing to maybe regulate rather than the floor area. So it'd be interesting to see if they're able to do that. I don't know if it's even possible.
Other thoughts? Mark?
Yeah, I just want to go back to Kara's comment there. So Kara, are you thinking that the board needs to refer this matter specifically to the Plan Commission for the Plan Commission to act upon it?
I think that if we're going to be, I don't think the Plan Commission should be rewriting this without a clear articulation of what is trying to be accomplished. And yes, so whether it is that we have, yes, in some way we need the board to weigh in, whether that's in response to something that we provide or we don't know what we're trying to do. We're just talking about sort of the technical aspects of this code, but those changes will have policy implications that we have not discussed and that we do not have board buy-in on. So whatever the process is for that to happen, I mean, the board, we haven't been asked to do this, correct?
Yeah, to my knowledge, the board has not made a referral to the Plan Commission to re-examine FAR. Let's just put it that way. But I guess I'm asking if
how would that happen?
Yeah, well, if the board did decide to make a referral, and the referral was, we want the Plan Commission to review the FAR requirements, would that be adequate to your way of thinking?
Yes, that definitely would. And certainly I think that's why the board and the Plan Commission often, they share. There are always board members on Plan Commission, so that can occur. But we've been talking about this for a long time, and that has not occurred. And I want to hear from the board because I don't want to be making policy for the village. I'm not elected.
No, I understand, and I think that's been my thinking for some time. It's often difficult for committees if there's no specific referral to that committee, whether it's something that the committee should in fact undertake, or should they leave it until such time as the board makes the referral. So
I mean,
clearly the board does not want to, I'm only speaking for myself as a trustee, but just as purely as a board member, I wouldn't want to get into the devils of the details of the FAR. I would much prefer to leave it to the Plan Commission and have the Plan Commission come back and make a recommendation to the board. And at that point, the board review it and decide what it wants to do.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I'm not really speaking broadly to sort of like committee board relationships. I'm speaking specifically about the Plan Commission because I do think that we have a lot of committees that are really kind of more working committees that sort of get things done and do sort of administrative things just because of the size of the village and sort of the needs and the constraints that we're under. But I think we are a statutory body, and how we work is codified, and we should honor that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Craig, seen your hand up?
Yeah, I believe it was board member Shabnam who
Yep.
first brought up FAR changes on our agenda back in October or November of 2024. And I know at board meetings, John has expressed his support for FAR and zoning changes to address some of the issues that have been arisen. So I agree that it would be great to get a referral, but I think this is already in our court and it has been for well over a year.
And what is the policy? What have we been asked to do?
Well, Shabnam's original ask was about FAR fairness, to assess and research whether FAR changes could be done to address some of the issues she had seen and been raised by people in the village. That was kind of a general thing. That was the referral. And we've looked at that a little bit and we've talked about some ideas. You know, do we eliminate the basement, for example, altogether, just to count it as space? Was one we talked about last month that seemed to have some appeal. You know, we've talked about this going back to May, all these things. Now, you know, at some point we'll need to produce a menu of things we would kind of recommend the board consider and send it up to the board and let them vote on it. But I don't think at this point, for future things, you know, if the board wants to send something new to us about, you know, signs or you know, fencing or, you know, some other topic that we're not really talking about, I think that's fine. But I think however it got in front of us, the issue of FAR has been on our agendas nonstop for over a year.
I think that things get referred to the Plan Commission by a vote of the board, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't think that was a referral to the Plan Commission, but.
Yeah.
I think that's right, Kara.
Yeah, the other thing I would note is we had two former presidents of the village come out quite strongly in opposition to changes to FAR. So, you know, there are concerns that opening up FAR will sort of open up some sort of floodgates and all kinds of changes will be proposed and things could get very messy. So, you know, I'd be sympathetic to going back to the board and clarifying this now so that we don't end up in a situation recommending something to the board, only to the board to say, what are you doing? And we didn't really intend you to go that far or go in that direction or whatever. It would just seem to save us quite a bit of time and headache if they gave a signal that they wanted us to review FAR.
So Brian, I don't know if we're being helpful for the way you think.
I doubt it.
Not necessarily, but I think I have a clearer path on where to go next now, which will, I think, give me a little bit of time and perhaps answer some of those questions too for what they would like to see the consultants look into. So
yeah, I mean, from my seat, I mean, I don't know if there's consensus, but I think there was interest in how we treated FAR or how we treated remodeling projects within existing structures. I think there was some consensus there, and I think it would be worth Brian and Sonia's time to kind of evaluate what that change might look like. We could bring it back to this committee and advance it up to the board. Mark, I don't know how you feel about that, but
Well, I think that's what we already asked
yeah,
them to do at the last meeting,
right,
was on this, on that particular issue
right.
about working within the existing envelope and to consult with Van der Waal and propose language
Yeah, I
that would
mean,
accomplish that end.
yeah, from my seat, I'd be very comfortable advancing that item. There's a lot more to the FAR. And Brian and Sonia can also comment on any potential unintended consequences for any change we advance. But I think there would be boards, at least board members support, if not commission support, to at least let's work on that. Let's see if we can tackle that. Bring it to the board. The board may say, that's not enough information. We want it to go back to the plan commission. Or they might say that's a sensible change and then take the lead on it. So if there's no objections to that, I think that would be good direction for Sonia and Brian to say on that issue. We think the board will be interested, the plan commission's interested, and then comment on other opportunities or maybe some unintended impacts. I know Brian has commented on those a couple times.
One thing that I think that did come up during our discussion was that I don't believe Town and Country currently has all of the existing, floor plan or blueprints of all homes in the village. So it may be very difficult to enforce a situation where someone's proposing a modification to their home that claims to be within the footprint or envelope, and we don't have the original to go back and compare against.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It's very complicated
Yeah, that's
in a
complicated.
village like ours.
The devil's in the details.
Always.
All right, Brian, anything else on this one? It sounds like
No.
we're gonna have a conversation with the consultant, and we're gonna have a conversation and see if there's a pathway here.
Yeah, and I mean, the only other thing was if there's anything specific that any of the commission members had for future topics, as we're still working through FAR, but anything else from, a relatable standpoint that you want to bring forward in future meetings or have, some background research begun on for, ushering in the next topic for review.
I think ADUs are still there. I think one thing we're watching closely is the state legislation. I think there's a bill about how ADU should be handled in communities. I think the legislative session is going to end in March. Usually doesn't go much later than that because it's not a budget year, it's an election year, and they want to get out on the trail. So I know that Sonia's been monitoring that pretty closely. I know that's on our future agenda topics as well.
And just a reminder, sorry, John,
No, go ahead.
on ADUs, just a reminder that the comp plan has ADUs and there was a timeline as to when that should be taken up. And so that is why we have been talking about ADUs.
That's right. That's right. I think the thought process when we raised this with Sonia was, the state legislation is being considered. I don't know if the governor, if it'll pass, that's one. And two, I don't know if the governor will sign it and will it go into law. With housing's continuing to be such a big issue. I think it was Mark's point about the devil's in the details. We'll have to see it's something that could be passed and could become state policy. And does it create a preemption for municipalities in terms of how they treat ADUs? We will find out. But does it make sense for us to really dig in when this legislation could kind of set the playing field for municipalities going forward? So I think that was a thought.
And I wonder if we could take advantage at the upcoming board meeting in the committee reports that are part of the meeting, to raise the issue with the board about what's on the Plan Commission's agenda. And to the extent that the board has, or trustees have concerns with respect to FAR or whatever about us proceeding along those lines, gives them an opportunity to voice those concerns.
It's a good suggestion, Mark. I appreciate that. Okay, other thoughts? Craig?
Let's see, three things. First off, last meeting I suggested talking about garden homes a little bit in lieu of Madison's. You just mentioned Madison a lot in housing. Madison's permission of cottage courts, which can increase residential density and so forth, and kind of brainstorming that. I know we've stated a position on garden homes, but the fact is it's not developed, and it seems like there's an impasse. Seems like, I don't know what the impasse is, but it seems like something that would be nice to at least talk about or try to find some way to move it forward. Second of all, the campus, the Wimmer project tonight, made clear that we have a slight deficiency in CF. You mentioned CF is our golf course, and also this master hospital complex. And so the CF zoning district has all these exceptions. For hospitals, you can go higher. For hospitals, you can do more, and so forth. It's almost like in the Madison side, it's under a master plan, a campus institutional CI district master plan.
Right.
And we one thing that's come up recently, or about a year ago, was the rec fields and possible rec field development, and that includes things that would be covered under Shorewood Hills. They're not just neighbors of ours, but for example, a lot of the planned access roads would be going through Shorewood Hills. Maybe we need to think about a campus institutional district or plan or something to kind of separate this hospital stuff onto its own from Blackhawk Country Club. And that's something that Vanderwall could probably go to town on, and might make sense, because at some point Weissman's going to be redeveloped. Everything there is eventually going to be developed, I'm guessing. And I think that was it. Sorry, just two. Oh no, the third thing. No. Well, the third thing is there's one more thing in the agenda in the packet that we haven't talked about. I don't know if that's business we're going to talk about tonight, about TDS.
I know. Yeah, well, I was going to mention that. Yeah, it was inadvertently put in the packet.
Okay.
It will be on the agenda for the February meeting. TDS is doing a little bit of a bump out. They're in the office building there. That's in between Village Hall and Pancake Cafe retail area, and so we're going to talk about that. But
okay,
you've been given a preliminary heads up with some detail. So,
and Craig, on that note, with the CF zoning district, you're reading our minds, so to speak. We've already had some kind of prelim conversations of, is this the right approach? Should we do something differently? So Vanderwall's already looking at this with that kind of an eye to thinking about how we could possibly perhaps do things a little bit differently within the CF district moving forward.
Sounds good.
And I would add that, John, to the Plan Commission report to the board, the committee reports, as something again to kind of get a heads up from the board that this is something that's being looked at.
Okay. So if I miss any of those, Mark, I'll give you that
I'll try to remind you.
I appreciate that. That. All right. So I think we're out of agenda items today. Any future agenda items folks want to speak to tonight? We notice Wimmer's on there. That's going to be moving forward. UBay Fields, we there's nothing new on that. I saw Brian, so that'll be something we can continue to follow.
The Fauci Center construction, I believe, is scheduled for spring to
I-
begin.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal. They're actually gonna redirect the road there.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's the road, the parking lot, everything's shuffling around. There's gonna be new plumbing,
yeah.
electrical, fiber. It's gonna be a tough, I haven't seen the construction impacts yet. That'll come up at JCAC probably, but,
Yeah. We definitely discussed it within Joint Campus, not lately, but when it was originally approved. They are going to, it's gonna be outside that historic stone wall. It's not gonna impact the wall.
It
at
it
all.
does impact the wall. There's been a
Yeah.
lot of, as people have woken up to this, the
Yeah.
wall is going to be invisible from the road. And so the most pleasing aspect of this is being
Yeah.
cut off, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah,
But the wall will be complimentary for the building, but
that's right.
no one else will get to see it.
Yeah. Well, unless you're on the hiking trails or the bike trails on the
No,
interior.
you won't be able to go, well, yeah, on the interior, but
Right.
you won't be able to see I call it the back to school, the Rodney Dangerfield view, where he drove into town and drove by that wall.
Can I move we adjourn and then
Yes.
you guys can continue this conversation?
All right.
Thank you.
Hey, Kara, appreciate that. Is there a second?
Thanks.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Craig.
Take care,
Isabel,
everyone.
Good to see everyone.
Bye.
Good
All right,
night.
have a nice
Thanks.
evening.
Good night.
Brian, I think we're good. Chrissy, thanks so much.
Yes,
Great to
of
see
course.
everyone. We'll see you in February.
It's good. Thanks.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.